Hey, it's Chris. Is the brand new M2 iPad Pro worth it? I'm here to help you figure that out today. We're gonna start off with the obvious stuff. If you're looking for the best and the newest iPad on the market, this is obviously that. But then there's also this fact that for 99.999% of people, there's really not much of a difference in terms of practical daily usage, things that will be noticed on a day-to-day basis over the M1 iPad Pro. So you can see on Apple's YouTube page, the latest video here is not an event. There's about a 9-minute video that talks about the new iPads. They put it up in the banner there. But the fact that Apple didn't decide to hold a launch event to talk about these brand new iPads and all their great features, they just put out a video. That goes a long way towards telling you what the expectations are here, even from Apple. But we're gonna go over all the things that might actually matter to you. And obviously there was a bunch of rumors that didn't pan out. People kind of live or die by these rumors. There was no MagSafe, no reverse wireless charging, no new 4-pin connector, which sort of bizarrely almost kind of actually makes the base entry-level iPad the most exciting iPad in terms of actual newness and change out of the new iPads. So we're gonna get to that M2 chip in just a little bit and talk about where, if anywhere, does it actually make any difference for anybody? I know that's the burning question, but first, let's just compare the new M2 to the M1 iPad Pro a little bit. Now, the M1 looks the same as the M2. It's got the exact same storage options, not really any camera differences to speak of. So long story short, the M1 iPad Pro, the 5th gen iPad Pro, is still a very, very up-to-date, solid, good iPad Pro. And by the way, I think what a lot of people are excited about is that maybe that one's gonna start seeing some discounts. Now, aside from the M2 chip, what really sets this new iPad Pro apart this year is this 10-core GPU, 100 gigabits per second memory bandwidth, so more bandwidth, Wi-Fi 6E versus just 6 on the old iPad Pro, and of course, the Apple Pencil's new hover feature, which we're gonna talk a little bit more about. So, are there real differences? Yes. Obviously. I mean, 15% faster performance, 35% faster graphics, the neural engine's 40% faster, 50% more bandwidth. I mean, these things aren't nothing, but here's the thing, and this is the question that you're gonna be asking yourself. Who's gonna notice all those different percentages that I just talked about? Honestly, I think for most people, the only thing that really seems like it's gonna feel noticeably different to actually use or to make use of would be the new Apple Pencil hover feature, which I can't wait to test out. So if that's the one thing that's really gonna feel different when you're using it versus an M1 iPad Pro, the question then becomes, well, how much use do you make of the Apple Pencil? I guess if your answer is a ton, I use it all the time, every single day, then maybe this starts to sound more compelling to you. But I'm guessing for most people that hover functionality all on its own kind of isn't really gonna be enough to move the needle for anybody outside of those who just happen to need an iPad right now anyways. Now I should say, I have witnessed some demos of this hover functionality and it actually does seem cooler than I gave it credit for at first. I haven't gone hands-on with it yet, so I can't tell you definitively, but at first I was like, well, you know, it seems like a nice thing. It's kind of cool. It's like a little innovative, but you know, practically, like, is it gonna make a difference? Well, I've seen some developers integrating it into their apps, for instance, like Procreate. And you know what? Actually, it's pretty cool. I think it's gonna be cool in Apple Notes as well. So there's an API and it's really gonna depend on, you know, who and how many developers end up actually baking that into their app. And do they do a good job of imagining, you know, what can be done, what the possibilities are. Hey, just so you know, we launched some new wallpaper packs. They're motivational and they're linked up down in the description. So even if you're not getting a new iPad, at least you can make your old iPad feel different. Now, is the front-facing camera still off to the left side when in horizontal mode? Yes, because the base entry-level iPad, the 10th gen iPad, moved the camera to where everyone wanted it to be on the Pro, that front-facing camera. It's centered horizontally in landscape mode. That's so much better. Now there's reasons why Apple didn't do that. We can all guess. Probably has to do with how you charge the Apple Pencil up top there, and they just weren't gonna be reconfiguring it this time. Probably gives us a sense of what's coming down the road, although in a weird way, because usually things trickle down from the top. This would be like coming up, bubbling up from the bottom of the iPad lineup. And also the 11-inch did not get an XDR display update, still just a regular old liquid retina display. You know, that was like one thing that seemed like some low-hanging fruit that Apple could have just done fairly easily that would have made people at least a little bit happy. And then someone's gonna be like, well, the pros can handle Stage Manager at least better than other iPads. Well, Stage Manager, as awesome as it is, I think it's very cool. You can check out my videos and coverage on that. It's gonna work on the M1, iPad Pros 2. So Stage Manager on the M2 versus the M1 is not really gonna see a big difference. So once again, the question ends up being, is this just the best, newest iPad that one can possibly buy at the moment? Or is there a reason to get that M2 chip? Can anything actually make use of it? Can anything harness that power? I'm gonna help you answer that question in just a second, but I have to pause and tell you about Jasper. It's my favorite AI-powered writing assistant that now not only generates text, which is great for advertising, for articles, for email, for social media, etc., but it can now also create art and images for you to go along with that text it generates. And there's a new browser plugin, so you can basically use Jasper almost anywhere. I mean, we're talking about pro stuff, so Jasper is very pro. I use it all the time professionally. It makes me some money. So I'm gonna link it up, you can check it out, but let's talk about this M2 chip. Is there anything that can make use of this M2 chip that makes it worth buying? Well, look at my screen right here. I'm showing you DaVinci Resolve. This is an actual pro app, and it may not be the pro app that you're excited about, or necessarily that I am. I mean, I'm excited as a video editor in that it's a full feature thing. I would rather have Final Cut Pro. I'm just baffled that all these other apps end up beating Apple's own apps to their own platform. But nevertheless, this opens the floodgates, hopefully. It feels like we're entering a new era when it comes to what kind of apps can run on an iPad. This is like the demonstration, the template. Other stuff hopefully is going to be coming. So that's exciting at least. But there are some other apps that are currently available or will be available soon that will be able to make use of the M2 and all the power of the iPad. Let me just list a few. Obviously, Octane X is going to be one of the most powerful apps on the iPad. There's also UMake, which a lot of people use to design things. Very powerful. And then there's Affinity Publisher for iPad, which is not going to lack any features versus the Mac counterpart. There's also Shaper 3D, which will definitely give you some really powerful 3D model rendering. And then of course, Procreate 5.3. This is probably one of the top apps that's gonna make use of this new hover feature. And obviously, if you're really into design, and illustration stuff, this is going to be very powerful. There's also Adobe Fresco for iPad, which is another design related thing. So there's obviously a pattern here, right? All of these apps that either can or will potentially make use of the M2 and extra power under the hood now or in the future, they're all creative apps of some sort, whether you're creating video content or 3D models, or if you're just doing illustration or you're a photographer with Photoshop or whatever. Those are the sorts of scenarios, professions, people, applications that are gonna make use of any kind of power under the hood, I guess, other than gaming. But if you don't know what any of those apps are, or you wouldn't use those apps, then maybe the M2 really doesn't do a whole lot for you right now. That's the long and the short of it. Now, I will just point out there's this rumor floating around here that Apple's developing some sort of light version of macOS exclusively for the iPad Pro M2, which will come out sometime next year. Apple insiders reporting that testing's being done with a 25% larger macOS UI, so it's suitable for touch, but that, however, the apps that run on the product would still be iPad optimized versions, not full-fledged macOS versions. So to be honest, rumors like this have been flying around for like a decade, right? And we've never seen that happen, Mac OS coming to the iPad. Although a lot of people, I understand, want that. That's outside the scope of this video, other than to say, don't buy based on rumors. Now, I've got the new M2 iPad on the way. It's a 12.9 inch, so I'm gonna put it through the paces, test things out on it, see what I can discover, give you my review and all of that stuff. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, but I'll leave it up to you. Give me your comments, let me know. Is it something that you're gonna buy, or are you gonna skip this, wait for the M3 or something to come out later? 18 months is a long wait if that's what the gap is gonna be between this M2 and the M3, right? Some of you aren't gonna be able to hold out. You gotta pull the trigger immediately. Also, I've got a productivity course in the works. It's coming out. It's made just for Apple people to help you get more done, have less burnout. Gonna be lots of Apple specific tips and tricks. Lots of information. If you want to be notified when that comes out, there's a place down in the description where you can sign up for that just to get pinged by email. Last but not least, check out the newsletter, check out the podcast. Both come out on Fridays. Lots of stuff in there you don't want to miss. You're not going to find elsewhere. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you in the next video. Later.